Hey guys, my name is Alfie Evans, and today I'm going to be reacting to Sentencing Dreamworks Villains for Their Crimes, Part 5 by Wickedbinge. Now, I freaking love Wickedbinge. Hopefully you guys will enjoy this. If you guys enjoy it, please go subscribe to Wickedbinge if you haven't already. And as always, let's begin.
All your powers and you squander them for your own personal gain.
Yes. It's about time to get back to sentencing the villains of Dreamworks Animation, and we've got a 3-in-1 special for you all today. 2010 was a pretty big year for the studio, with them releasing 3 wildly different films in just 12 months. And much like the movies themselves, the villains also changed differently in motivation and characterization. But out of all of them, which ones will be getting off easy, and which ones should prepare for the very worst? I'm Caleb with Wickedbinge, and this is Sentencing Dreamworks Villains for Their Crimes, Part 5.
Thanks, Dad.
Let's start this video with the first film Dreamworks put out in the 2010s, How to Train Your Dragon. We only have one villain to cover in this film, the appropriately named Red Death. The Queen of Dragon Island, Red Death is a ferocious ruler and a savage in every sense of the word. The other dragons who reside on the island have no choice but to serve her, for if they disobey, the punishment will be most severe. In most cases, dragons who fail her orders will be eaten by her, making her guilty of cannibalism. She is also the one who has essentially orchestrated the entire conflict between humans and dragons. She orders the dragons to go after the livestock the humans need, thus creating this ongoing war between the two factions. When the Vikings attack her nest near the end of the film, she is quick to act. She destroys several ships, likely killing many in the process, and nearly kills both Toothless and Hiccup. A ruler whose temper is as fiery as her breath, the Red Death is one of the most despicable villains we'll look at today, and because of that, earns herself the death penalty.
Yes.
The Red Death poses a danger not just to mankind, but also to her fellow dragons as well. To protect both civilizations, this punishment is the best course of action. How the punishment would be carried out is questionable, but if we're being honest, we cannot imagine a more painful fate than her insides being set to flames. The very fate she met at the end of the film. We move on from Berk to the kingdom of Far, Far Away to examine the villains of our next film, Shrek Forever After. Starting us off is the mischievous Rumpelstiltskin. An opportunistic and scheming foe, Rumpelstiltskin strikes a deal with Shrek that will allow him to act like an ogre for the day on the condition that one prior day of his life is erased. Unsurprisingly, Rumpelstiltskin uses this to his advantage and erases the day Shrek was born, completely changing the timeline. Now, Rumpelstiltskin rules over the kingdom, meaning he is essentially guilty of usurpation of power.
Happy Ogre Day!
As a ruler, he enslaved many of the citizens in the kingdom, adding slavery to the list of crimes he participates in. And since his goal is to eradicate Shrek from the timeline, we can also consider him guilty of attempted murder while we're at it. Last, but certainly not least, Rumpel's plan to take the kingdom is grounds enough for a conspiracy charge in our eyes. While he might not look like the most intimidating villain, Rumpelstiltskin is one of the most dangerous villains in the entire Shrek franchise, in that he poses a threat not just to the Green Ogre, but to the world at large. As a result, Rumpelstiltskin is another villain who will be sentenced to death. Conspiring to overthrow a formed government is a crime that's not taken lightly, both in the real world and in the land of Far, Far Away. In the end, it looks like Rumpel will be paying for his treachery with his life. To the gallows he goes. Accompanying accompanying Rumpelstiltskin on his mission to eliminate Shrek is the bounty hunter known as the Pied Piper. The Pied Piper is sent out by Rumpel to find Shrek, and uses his magical charms to lure the ogre back to his palace. Already, this means he is guilty of aiding and abetting like any evil accomplice. But unfortunately for him, his mission doesn't exactly go well. While he successfully captures many of the ogres in the Resistance, Shrek is not among them, causing him to lose favor with Rumpelstiltskin. While aiding and kidnapping are the Pied Piper's main offenses, there also exists a more subtle one, that being animal cruelty. The rats who followed Pied Piper aren't treated particularly well by the musician, seen as little more than subordinates to him instead of allies. He even stands on them in one of his earliest scenes. If that isn't animal cruelty, then what is? An overall minor villain in the film, the Pied Piper doesn't have that many crimes attached to his name, and thanks to this, gets a relatively lenient 5 years in prison. In a rather bizarre turn of events, his incompetency at completing tasks proves to be his salvation. This will probably keep him elated for a while, but we're sure he'll be singing a different tune once his sentence begins. And we mean that both literally and metaphorically. We have one film left to round out both this video and 2010, and it's the cult film Megamind. First up is none other than the man himself, Megamind. Megamind is your typical comic book supervillain, and as such, a lot of his crimes are not too out of the ordinary for someone in that field. He kidnaps, breaks out of prison, attacks the city, you name it, Megamind has probably done it. However, his main focus is on the hero Metro Man, who he seeks to defeat so that Metro City can be his to conquer. He has attempted to murder the superhero many times, though to no avail. Truthfully speaking, Megamind is one of the more villainous characters we've looked at today.
It's time to go down with style.
We've already named off 4 crimes he has committed. Is that really something you can argue with? However, there's more to Megamind than who he is at the start of the film. As the movie progresses, Megamind becomes a kinder and more heroic individual, concluding in his stand against the villain Titan, who he saves the day. For his redemption, he is crowned as the new hero of Metro City, showing just how far he's come since the movie began. Because of this, Megamind is our first character in the video to be pardoned. Since the film ends with the city celebrating him, it would feel rather strange to sentence him to prison or anything like that. Megamind has shown that he is capable of change, and he's gone through so many hardships in his life that punishing him feels unnecessary. With Metro Man in hiding, the city needs a new hero to keep itself safe, and Megamind looks to have what it takes to do all of that and more. Surely that's a better choice for him than to stay behind in some cell, wouldn't you say? No supervillain is complete without a minion at their side, and in Megamind's case, he has, well, Minion. How's that for a name? A fish contained in a robotic mech suit, Minion is Megamind's right-hand man who follows him through thick and thin. To be blunt with you, that's the nice way of saying he is guilty of aiding and abetting. Beyond that, though, Minion is a pretty clean-cut fellow.
Are you wearing Jean-Paul Gaultier's for whom?
The only other charge we can give him that's unique to him is reckless driving. While he's great at following orders, he's unfortunately not so great at obeying the rules of the road. Because of this, and also his ensuing redemption, Minion, like Megamind before him, is pardoned. As we said with Megamind, Metro City is going to need all the help it can get with Metro Man having life. We see no reason why he can't be as great of a heroic sidekick as he was an evil one. Sorry, but this is one dynamic duo we can't split up. We've now reached the real villain of the film, Titan. Formerly the cameraman Hal Stewart, Titan is what happens when Megamind decides to give someone all the powers of Metro Man in an attempt to have a new nemesis. Titan definitely succeeded in that goal, although not in the way Megamind had hoped. Titan only wants the powers so he can woo Roxanne, who he kidnaps shortly after acquiring his powers. After having been a superhero for only a few minutes, he's already committed one crime. Trust us when we say he doesn't get any more heroic.
I usually just scare criminals. You haven't been naughty, have you?
He commits multiple acts of theft, stealing everything from money to bicycles. He later tries to kill Megamind as well as the citizens of Metro City, which he now seeks to conquer. He destroys much of the city during his criminal rampage as well, adding property damage to his hefty set of crimes. The complete and total antithesis to Megamind, Titan is what you get when a person with no positive traits is given all the power in the world. In terms of punishment, we can't think of much better than a life sentence. Some would argue that Titan should get an even harsher punishment, but since he doesn't kill anybody in the way prior villains did, we don't think that's necessary in this case. Unfortunately for poor Mr. Stewart, he won't be getting the girl. All he'll be getting is a cold and lonely jail cell.
Yep. I think personally the Pied Piper should have served at least longer than 5 years. But anyway, all the other punishments are just right. That was Wickedbinge Sentencing Dreamworks Villains Fair Crimes Part 5. So if you guys enjoyed it, please like, share and subscribe if you haven't already. And also go subscribe to Wickedbinge if you haven't already. And as always, until next time, peace out.